Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Andrew and I'm here to break down my top 10 list of the worst movies of 2023. Now, I'm just going to say this again in my first video about my top 10 list. This list is basically my opinion. You guys can have different opinions and that is totally fine. I just feel like after some thought process, these are the films that I thought were some of the worst films of 2023. Although I will say from 10 to 6, there might be some in there that I might have to rewatch again. But when I first watched these movies, these were just movies that I just could not get invested in and could not really follow along with. But it doesn't mean that they were terrible in that sense. But when I first watched them, I just kind of lost myself and I wasn't that invested. So that's why they're going to be here, but that doesn't mean that I can have an opinion change. I just feel like there are some movies that I need to rewatch or maybe take a deeper dive into. But with any of that, I want to get into my top 10 of the worst films of 2023. So this movie I actually watched at the beginning and I enjoyed. But after rewatching it again, I kind of had to put something in the spot because I didn't really watch a ton of movies that I thought were the worst, but the one here was bad afterwards because I kind of understand now that it was just kind of something that probably didn't need to happen, and that was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. When I first watched this movie, I actually did enjoy some bits and pieces of it, and at some points I thought, oh, this is an Indiana Jones movie. But then, you just realize that Harrison Ford is just not the same age as he was when he first did it. Indiana Jones. And even the DH face kind of didn't look great. The CGI wasn't really that great either. I mean, other parts of the CGI just really sucked. I think that the adventure was kind of okay, but, they try to do different things with implementing a new character, a new side character. I don't think she really worked well as Indiana Jones's partner, or I think she was like his niece or whatever, goddaughter. Like, it was just something that I don't think worked well. And the ending and the villain were really forgettable. And you kind of like don't think the ending would be something that Indiana Jones would do. And eventually he didn't do it, but it's just, you kind of just go like, so why even like go through all that? But I had to put something here. And unfortunately, it had to be this movie. But I think this was one of the worst movies of 2023 because I think it didn't need to happen, basically. But I can't say much about that. I'm not a producer yet or anything like that. But that is definitely number 10 on my list. Another movie that I kind of need to put on the list because some of the movies that I thought were really bad are below. But number 9 has to be the Marvels. In retrospect, I think that what the Marvels did with Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel was better than what we had seen in previous iterations of them. Number 8 is Knock at the Cabin. I had watched this movie with my roommates, and I just was not really that interested in this movie. Although, once the movie kind of played along, I really enjoyed Dave Bautista's character. No, it's just one of those movies that you probably just forget. And I think that like the performance of Dave Bautista was good. But other than that, like, you probably just forget about it afterwards. Number 7 has to be Beau is Afraid. I know that people like this movie. And it's one of these movies that falls into the category where I might have to rewatch it again and just completely just lose my mind and watch it. Because when I first watched it, I just was so lost and trying to figure out what was happening almost the entire time. And someone had told me that it's a metaphor for anxiety, and that's kind of like the overall concept of the story of someone being afraid of the world. But there was so many things that really happened that made you question what was real and what was not real. And I think that was part of the movie. But at the same time, I just was not that invested. And then like as twists and turns happen, you're just going like, what? And you're just losing yourself. And I just feel like this movie I probably have to rewatch, but it was not what I was expecting when I first saw it. And maybe again I have to rewatch it. I've said that like 3 times already, but I'm just pointing that out. Other people will love it. I'm just in that boat where I can probably just maybe when I first watched it I didn't like it, but I have to probably just process it again over and over. But it's right there at number 7. Number 6 is Saltburn. This was one of the movies that I just recently saw with my girlfriend, and we were just walking around this mall area, and we needed a movie to see, and she wanted to see this movie. And, you know, I was invested kind of because I did see a trailer, and I thought, oh, okay, this kind of feels like an A24 film, and it's going to be kind of weird and crazy. The cinematography is really good in the movie, and then I think that Barry Keoghan did an okay job as the character that he was playing, which I even forgot his name. I don't even remember his name. That's how bad I forgot this movie, because it was so raunchy, or how do I put this? It was disgusting in some parts. Like, there are things that Barry Keoghan's character does in this movie that makes you question his sanity and what his goal actually was. And, you know, in some ways, I know that people really love it because of that, but in my retrospect, I think that I lost myself because of that aspect. And again, maybe like this is another movie in the category of I probably have to watch it again and just rethink about what was actually happening. The twist was kind of good, but again, you kind of just lose yourself in that because of what happens before. And you just kind of like are not that invested in it, because then you're kind of like wondering, oh, like why did he do this or why did he do that? And you know, like this is definitely a movie again that I have to probably rewatch. That's the 5th time I've said that, but this time, you know, it's just something that I have to think about again. But I have to put something on the list, and from 6 to 10, these are movies that I know weren't the greatest movies, but obviously they weren't horrible. But this point here, when I 5 to 1, these are the bad ones. It's fitting that I put this one here, Five Nights at Freddy's. I know that the lore of the game is actually really big. There are so many kids that love this lore, this story, even though, you know, it's basically about you being a security guard trying to make sure that these animatronic figures don't try and get you and kill you. But I think what really killed this movie is that it wasn't rated R. It was actually PG-13. And I don't think that, you know, entirely that is what killed it. I don't think that that part actually killed the movie in that way, but I think it would have benefited more if it was rated R, or if there was a rated R version. But I understand that they couldn't do that because most of the people watching the movie are teenagers or little kids, because they actually find these characters cute. And the Jim Henson Company, I will say this, they made those characters look really good. The animatronic figures looked really great. The puppeteering was really amazing at some points. Everything about the animatronic characters was good. I just wish that we had seen more violence from their point of view. And as far as the rest of the movie, that is the most of it being bad and it being in this spot. Because I think that the plot really had you asking more questions and answers. And I had this discussion with a few of my coworkers. It's like, it's not really like an interesting plot. And you're kind of like, know if you've played the games what the story is. But they hardly really touch upon that. And they try to like do more things than it should. Because Josh Hutchinson's character is trying to solve who took his brother, who killed his brother. And throughout this movie, we kind of are trying to point that in together with the pizza place. And why, and you kind of know why. But it just kind of loses itself almost. And I don't think that it did well in that aspect. But because it did so on the box office, it's going to get a second movie. And hopefully that one does a little bit better and more things like the plot. And maybe we get a rated R version. We'll see. But I think because of the plot and a few of the like underlying like less amount of gore, I think this is one of those spots that this movie has to go into. And it's unfortunate because I actually am sort of a fan because of Markiplier. I actually watch his videos and I loved him playing Five Nights at Freddy's. But unfortunately, this spot takes number 5. Number 4, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I cannot say enough how bad I hated this movie. Me and my friends were watching this in our apartment, and I just regretted every minute of it. First off, this movie had nothing going for it because it wasn't connected to the first movie. It wasn't following up about the post-credit scene. It was basically just going in a different direction. And I think a lot of the reasons why this movie failed is because Zachary Levi and The Rock and their beef with Black Adam and Shazam. They were trying so hard to really just put these characters together, but because of Dwayne Johnson making Black Adam a different figure altogether, there was no concept of them actually working together or even putting them together in the same movie. And I think that's what really killed this movie, is because once you see that, then you understand that, well, now they can't do this or they can't do that. So, you know, it just kind of kills you after that. And then, not to mention, Zachary Levi on Instagram is begging people to watch the movie. And, you know, when you do watch it, the CGI is somewhat okay, but most of it is so bad that you just kind of like look and barf. But it just wasn't good. Like, I can't keep saying that it wasn't good. And for being one of the last DC movies, you know, I can like understand and be glad that they're gonna do a reboot altogether. But that is why my number 4 movie is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. But that doesn't mean it gets better from here. It's gonna get worse. Ant-Man was Quantumania. I'm gonna stop. I actually really enjoyed this movie because of Jonathan Majors playing Kang and the threat that he was supposed to impose on the MCU going forward. Well, it all changed because now he got fired. Oh, he got fired. And rightfully so. He committed sexual assault. It's been proven by the court that he did so. And now he's paying for it. And look, even before they were going to do this whole thing with the multiverse and having Kang being the big bad threat after Thanos, I just feel like they weren't really doing well by that because, first and foremost, if you haven't watched this movie, I recommend that you do just so you see what I'm talking about. But they had the next big threat lose the worst possible way. And it was just insulting that they did it like that. But in retrospect, it played out for the best. The CGI was not good in this movie. And, you know, I can't blame them. Like, they were doing some things in there that I probably was not expecting them to do. First off, they had MODOK. And MODOK was... yeah, that was a thing. Yeah. They were pretty much rolling the dice on a big gambit. They sort of got a good roll, but then they had a bad roll. And unfortunately, because of that and just other aspects of the movie, this is one of the worst of 2023. I can't believe I paid for this movie. Oh, Fast X. Yeah, that's whew, that was a movie. Look, I get that people love watching dumb action movies sometimes because, you know, we're tired of watching this type of movie. We're tired of watching superhero movies. We just want to go and watch a dumb action movie. This movie, while dumb, had made no sense at all. And I'm just going to say this. there's a problem in the Fast and the Furious franchise. They have to stop bringing back people that you can tell are obviously dead. They died. And yet they keep bringing them back. Why? I don't know. And you know what's even worse is that this whole movie just... I just can't. I can't. This movie makes me so upset that I can't even talk about it in a sense that I'm trying to like my best to keep it in mind. Number one was a movie I didn't even pay for. It was a movie that I kind of hoped was gonna possibly be good. But I knew with all the backstage drama, all the things that they could do, that it was never gonna be anything more than just trash. The Flash. I cannot find enough screen grabs of the CGI in this movie that made me go, what am I watching? Not to mention, like, the whole thing with Ezra Miller and what they were doing in Hawaii, what they weren't doing in Hawaii, and just the overall, like, what WB was doing with them, like, you know, trying to support them and trying to, like, say, like, you know, like, they're getting help. They're doing this. Like, they're doing their best. They won't be on press tours, but nothing at this point was gonna save that movie. I'm so upset just thinking about these last two movies that I had to talk about. But that is it for my video today, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Hope that your 2024 goes well as 2023 did. And I hope that we have another great year of movies coming our way. And we'll see what happens in the future. I'm actually excited for a lot of movies coming out. But if you like my video, please leave a like. Comment down below your worst movies of 2023. And I'll see you next time.